Welcome everyone to this encounter between Praggnanandhaa and Alireza Firouzja. Their classical game ended in a draw and now we are into the Armageddon at the first round of Norway Chess. Both players shake hands. Pragg has 10 minutes and is in a must-win scenario. Alireza has 7 minutes. Pragg brings his knight out to f3. Alireza plays knight f6 and c3. That's a very interesting move by Pragg. He's going for something like a reversed Slav. Alireza plays c6 and now the queen comes into c2. So Pragg is maybe trying for knight d2 and e4 ideas. This is maybe some of his prep that he's showing, and Alireza moves his knight again. Maybe just to bring his bishop out so that it can uncover an attack on the queen. Very interesting choice here by Firouzja. And you can see that Pragg is now taking his time because this is a new move for him. He also has to take care of his time because that's the only advantage he has here, and otherwise a draw would mean he would lose the game. So one of the possible moves now is to attack with knight d2, and then black would most likely play bishop to f5. The other possibility is to play e3, but Pragg goes g3. He puts his bishop here, and now if bishop f5, maybe his idea is to go knight h4. It's possible, but then there is knight g3, knight f5, knight h1, some real complications. But instead of going for that, Firouzja says, I'll make a luft for my bishop to settle down on the h7 square, so that later on when my bishop comes to f5, it can go back here. Pragg is thinking once again, it's a kind of a new position for him, and he's trying for some fresh ideas, but that is of course going to put him under some time trouble as well. He's already down to 8 minutes on the clock, so he needs to think about what to do next. Well, bishop g2 is definitely a normal way to play, but I'm sure that he's not very happy with the fact that bishop f5, queen b3, there is queen b6. So he needs something more here to play for a win. And therefore, whenever the bishop comes to f5, he needs to meet it with queen b3. And his plan is very interesting. He goes c4. Now, what Pragg wants to do is that when bishop comes here, he moves his queen here, attacks this pawn. The queen comes out. This is, by the way, happening. Bishop f5. He moves his queen. And now attacking this pawn, also putting pressure in the center. And I think a very logical move for black is to play queen to b6, just to put the queen and offer a trade of queens there. And Firouzja now taking his time because he also has some options. He can go queen c8, although that would make the d5 pawn a little weak. Queen c7 is not a great idea because you have bishop f4. So queen b6 seems like the most logical move to play here. And that's exactly what Firouzja wants to play. He plays his queen. And now we see why Pragg pushed his pawn to c4. Because here is an opportunity to push it even further. And if you know pretty well, after queen b3, a b3, it opens up the rook. Pragg is also wondering if he can take, and take. And in this ensuing position, I think black is doing very well because the rook is well placed and the knight can enter. So perhaps this is not the best idea to trade queens and open the rook file. What is Pragg going to do next now? Look at the time difference. Right now, Alireza Firouzja has 5 minutes 40 seconds. Pragg has 7 minutes 30 seconds. So he's down to, from a 3-minute lead, he's down to 1 minute 50 seconds. But c5 has been played. Now Firouzja can go back, but he takes, which is the right decision. Pawn takes. And white's idea is to play b4, b5. So knight goes to a6. This is a nice move because the knight is aiming to come in here. Already the position for Pragg is looking dicey. He needs to win, plus his opening position is slightly worse. Wow. Firouzja playing really well out of the opening here. And now knight b4 is quite an irritating move to meet. Also, the knight would settle down very well on that square. So how is Pragg going to meet it? Maybe he can go, if he plays a move like knight d2, there is knight b4, already big trouble here. So Pragg goes bishop d2, a move that you don't make very happily for sure, because you're giving up your bishop, and then black would have the bishop pair advantage. So bishop d2, knight d2 takes, Alireza takes the bishop. Now knight takes again would be met with knight b4, threatening this. So maybe a good idea is to take with the king. Yes, king takes is a good move. And Alireza brings his knight to c7. Pragg improves his position, brings out his knight, and g5 played. Beautiful move. Wanting to get the bishop here, Pragg puts his pawn on e3. Black is clearly better here with the bishop pair advantage. And also, if black can get the e5 break in the center, that would be quite big. Bishop goes to g7. And now, maybe f6, e5 is what Alireza could be thinking about, but Pragg goes b4. He's angling for the b5 break, a6 played. Well, b5 could still be possible, right? Because after, oh no, a b5 can be played because the knight defends the rook. So here b5 is not possible because there's no pin there. So Pragg has to remain careful. He brings his bishop out to d3 and offers a trade. Bishop goes to g4. So Alireza did not trade the bishops. He attacks the knight. If the knight goes back, then black is happy. He can then attack the center with e5. Time wise, Pragg still keeping a minute's edge on the clock, but it is quickly going down. You must remember that there's a 1 second increment after move 40. We are on move number 15 right now. Pragg is thinking here, important moment in the game. He plays his knight to e5, bishop takes on e5, de, and black long castles. Wow. It was also possible here to play bishop f3, and then h5, h4 could have been played, but long castle has been played. Now the point is to go d4 and perhaps open this up. Also the knight would settle down well on the e6 square later on, or the d5 square. Let's see what Pragg does. He plays his knight to e2. If he gets his knight to d4, that knight would be very strong. So Alireza says, I need a draw only, so I'll take it. King takes e2 has been played. d4 still possible, but now it would be met with e4 followed by f4, and white pawns would start moving up the board. So Alireza now has to maybe go for this h5, h4 plan, but he goes f6. Perhaps not the best idea, because now slowly the bishop is going to show its class over the knight. Especially because after take, the bishop will find a great square on f5. Time wise, Pragg still few seconds ahead of Alireza, but not much anymore. What's the next move going to be by Praggnanandhaa? It's so much pressure when you are in a must-win situation, but I love Pragg's move, h4, because if black ever takes, he is in big trouble. Rook takes, both the pawns become weak. So this is a tension which is in white's favor. He can release it when he wants, but black can't do much about it. Alireza Firouzja now thinking once again, how should he meet this position? Well, also he has to make use of his time well. King b8 played, but you can already sense that white is the one who's taking over slowly. What is Pragg's next move going to be? Now you see that actually Pragg's king is slightly more active than the black king. So Pragg can actually bring his king in this way, which is amazing. But you also have to take care that black rooks do not really hassle your king. So Pragg has to take this decision very carefully, because he has an edge, but that edge is not that big that if he makes an error, he would still be better. So that's the reason why he's taking all his time at this moment. He's down to 4 minutes on the clock. Actually 3 minutes, few seconds, and Alireza, he might have even gone below the time of Alireza. And this is what these good players are good at. Takes on g5. Yes, he has 3 minutes 33 seconds. Alireza has 3 minutes 41 seconds. Well, fg5 is definitely possible, but then rook jumps to h5. The other rook comes here. You put pressure. So I think Alireza would prefer taking with his h pawn, trying to exchange pieces. But of course, exchanging pieces might not be the best idea. Also, I really don't like the fact that the king is on b8 square. And the knight really doesn't have any active things to do. It can go to b5, but where next? It can push d4. But then later on, knight d5, white will always meet it with e4. So, hg5. Wow, Alireza is thinking for a long duration here. We are on move 22 and both the players have to make 18 more moves before they get 1 second increment. And Alireza has now, after this move, 2 minutes 44 seconds. Pragg has 3 minutes 30 seconds. Intense. Now, will Pragg start playing with his king? This is such an amazing maneuver, but to see it with such little time is not at all easy. It's also very reminiscent of these amazing king walks that are there. The famous Capablanca versus Tartakover king walk. King f3, will this be played or not? Praggnanandhaa has to speed up a bit. Wow, finds it. King f3, knight comes to e6. But I guess you can even go ahead. King g4. Let's go. Pragg can actually go in with his king. The king can do such great damage, and also the fact that there is rook here, he can always trade off one of the rooks. Goes king g4, knight comes to g7, trying to prevent the king from coming ahead. And now rook d1 played by Praggnanandhaa, just improving his position and asking Firouzja, what's your next move? This move rook d1 puts such a big question, and Firouzja plays his rook to f8. He is thinking if there is any f5 check, but actually f5 check will be met with king takes on g5. But there could be some mating attack. Imagine if I play b3, f5, king g5. Here knight e6. Oh, it's a mating attack. My goodness. So actually Pragg has to be careful now. That's the reason why he puts his bishop on f5. He doesn't let the black pawn come up forward. And later on, he may want to break with e4. Rook goes to e8, but now Pragg can take this pawn, take the rook and play e4. I think that looks like a great idea. Or he can just play his bishop to g6, attacking the rook, asking it a question. Where do you want to go? The time now, 2 minutes 23 seconds for Firouzja. Pragg down to 1 minute on the clock, 1 minute 50 seconds. Needs to make his move. Look at the pressure that Pragg is under, but look at his focus. We are on move number 26, 14 more moves to make under move 40. He spotted something, but he just wants to be sure. Goes bishop g6, fantastic move, because now the rook cannot move up. The rook on h8 would be hanging, and once the rook has to again move away from the e file, then white gets the move there. Fantastic chess here. This is such a classy move, improving the bishop's position. Impeccable play there by Pragg. He's better here, but on the clock he has 1 minute 35 seconds. Firouzja also taking his time here. It's like both the players are mirroring each other. The moment Pragg takes his time for a move, Firouzja also returns the favor by taking time. Well, I guess Firouzja is calculating some rook takes rook moves, but it doesn't work, because if you take and then the rook would enter on the 7th rank, so he needs to move his rook somewhere on the last rank, but where exactly? Also, he could be calculating some f5 check, but this time after king g5 the bishop helps the position, so it's not at all a mate there. Now Firouzja down to 1 minute 30 seconds. Wow, this is getting so intense. Both the players down to their last 90 seconds on the clock. What is Firouzja going to play here? Why is he thinking so much? Why couldn't he just move the rook? Why isn't he putting more pressure on Pragg on the clock? Well, this is nerves at its best. And this is the fight for the extra half point in the tournament standings, because a draw would mean both the players in the classical game have got 1 point each. He goes rook f8 with just 49 seconds on the clock. Oh my god. He's thought a bit too much. But Now can Pragg simply take on h8? Take on h8, because then there's no f5 in the air, and also trading of one pair of rooks means that the king is relatively safe on g4. That is the idea. But of course, when you take on h8, rook h8, you are allowing the rook to come to h2. The speed at which both these players are playing makes me wonder if they are confident enough to make moves at 1 second on the clock. Why are they thinking so much? Oh my god. Pragg, let's go. Don't swivel the pawn in your hand. You need to make a move. What are you thinking? Let's go. Praggnanandhaa down to last few seconds. Do they know or not that they don't have an increment until move 40? Wow. This is just insane, and now they will start blitzing out their moves after a point. I guess so. He takes with 33 seconds, pushes his pawn to e4. Best move there by Praggnanandhaa, because if you take, he has rook d7 coming in, rook d8 played, good defense there by Firouzja. And Pragg again thinking, no, you can't think so much, Pragg, you have just 30 seconds left. In fact, now 25. He plays his rook, 20 seconds on the clock, plays his rook to d3, maybe wants to transfer it here. 10 more moves to make to reach move number 40. King comes up to c7. And now, rook moves to f3. 15 seconds for Pragg, 32 seconds for Firouzja. Pawn pushed forward. d4 played, he takes on pawn pushed forward. Rook f7 check. He goes here and pushes e5, so that if d2 there is bishop c2 that can come back. We are on move number 34. Firouzja plays his knight to e6 with 15 seconds on the clock. Praggnanandhaa plays king to f5 with 4 seconds on the clock. Firouzja needs to make a move. Needs to move. He has 15 seconds. Oh my god, you need to play knight d4 check. King f6. 3 seconds for Pragg, 6 seconds for Firouzja. d2. Bishop goes here. Rook h8. Bishop comes back. Rook h2 played. And now, oh, he loses on time. Firouzja lost on time. They forgot. They were on move 38. 2 more moves and they would have got 1 second increment, but they played too slow. They did not adjust to this new time control, and that's the reason why Praggnanandhaa won. But of course, the final position is completely winning for him. He was in the driver's seat. Excellent game. Absolutely loved the king walk from e2 to f3 to g4 to f5 to f6. Fantastic play there. And with this, Praggnanandhaa joins Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura on 1.5 in the first round.